And Gary Roberts, our tax director, will give us some guidance here on ways we can go forward.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I may have went one slide. Yes, thank you. Couple things today on relief to talk to you about. Let me say as a disclaimer first, I hope to do this in a retreat, so I look for it to be a little bit more informal, maybe some questions back from you guys as I move through this. I'm going to talk to you about some legislative ideas that are being thrown out. There's one bill that's been presented that I'll talk to a little bit today. I know you guys are facing a lot of comments from the public along with our legislators in how citizens' property taxes are rising throughout North Carolina. I think the coastal areas and the mountain areas have probably seen a lot of it, probably in residential values more so than the other areas. Not that the Piedmont is not having that problem, but I think it's been more vocal from the mountains and the coastal areas. So I think looking at that, I've talked to most of the legislators. They've got a lot of good ideas. I think they're turning now to the Tax Association to ask some additional ideas as how the impacts are going to affect counties and cities as they're throwing out ideas to help our residences with the property taxes as our market values are growing. And as you know, in North Carolina, we value property several ways. We look at the cost approach, the market approach, and an income approach. And in looking at those approaches, you have to, when you view a property, see what the highest and best use of that property is. And it's going to fall under one of those approaches. And so I don't say that market is predominantly, which it probably is for an area that's already somewhat been developed. As new developments come on, we look at that cost approach. Or as commercial buildings and other types of new businesses pop up, we look at the income side of it to try to identify. Like, give you an example, in the hospital area, there's a lot of changing of some buildings over there, so we look at the income approach of those to try to decide what is the highest and best value to place on those. Some examples. So,
and Gary, I think maybe just start off, just let folks know, this is nothing that the Board of Commissioners can unilaterally change.
Good point. How taxation is set for North Carolina really starts with the state constitution. It says that it has to be uniform for all citizens. Then from there, the state legislators have allowed local governments, to tax our citizens so you can generate revenue for the services. How we do that, though, is set by the legislators of the state and not the local commissioners. And, even with appealing values or discussing values, you guys are on the outside of that, turning to the tax office just like any other citizen would on comments about exemptions or deferments or property values and how we assess those. So you guys are pretty much on the outside of that looking in like citizens are, so you don't really have a predominant role. The role that you have is in guidance of helping us set a schedule of values to assess those property values to our community. In that schedule of values, what we do is work with the community builders, residential folks, and looking at the market of what sales are and come up with some ranges. And then we present that schedule to you once every 4 years, right before we do the reevaluation and get you guys to approve that. And our public also looks at that and comes and gives us a lot of comments. We tweak it and then we ask you for the final approval of it before we set any of those values. In starting the presentation, I think it's important for you to know what 1 cent on the tax rate is. As I give you impacts, I think you need to look at that. Our current levy is $132.7 million. The tax rate you said earlier this year is 53 cents, and it calculates $2.5 million. Our tax base that we have, total value that we taxable base, is around $25 billion. First area I wanted to talk to you about, this is probably the busiest slide. The others aren't as bad as this one, but this one has some good information I really wanted to share with you. Elderly and disabled exemption. This bill, or I should say bills are sponsored every year at the state level on making changes to this law, and this is probably a group that is probably the most vocal and needs the most help. In this program, if you're 65 years and older, or permanently disabled, I should say permanently and totaled at any age, you can make application for this program. There is an income threshold. This year, for 2007, it's $20,500. Last year, it was $19,700. And the year before, it was $19,200. So you can kind of see it's kind of escalated a little bit and continues to do